Welcome to Speak Sex. I'm your host, Eurydice. Welcome to the show. I am a writer and artist from the island of Lesbos, where the lesbians come from, which is actually one of the earliest reasons that I became interested in sexuality, because I was 4 years old, and I would not tell anyone in school that I was a lesbian, because there were no other lesbians, and it was such a dirty thing, and I felt it was branding me. So I spent maybe up to the age of 17, right, hiding it. So before I even had a sexual orientation, I was hiding it. So that's how I understood that the power of words and the power of the repression, and the power of the taboo and the stigma and the fear and the shame that goes when there is nothing. It's just the idea of it. So I've written 3 books on sexuality, including with Scribners and Virago. I was a sex columnist, and I'm doing this podcast because I feel that the time is good right now to break the existing order of things, which I call the patriarchy. It's just a word, and I feel that the patriarchy oppresses men for sure as much as women, right? So it's not I think that men get up and made this fucking oppressive system because it works for them. It doesn't. And I call it Speak Sex because we don't, the patriarchy or the dominant culture or our parents, our church, whatever, didn't give us a language for sex, right? So it's the one area of our lives that's not so legislated, and we can be free and make it up and invent it, and we are making it up and inventing it, right? Because in the heteronormative world, once you start having sex, you can talk about it, and it's easier to have it than speak it. So we know how to flirt and, and hit on each other and maybe imply things, but we don't have the words for it. So that's where we come in and actually can create something. And also, as a woman, having the right to give verbal consent, I think it's extraordinary. So we build on that. So my guests today are all people of color, which is great. I have Chai, who is a renowned international graffiti street artist, and his work is under the tag Mitrooper, Mitrooper, and that's his Instagram account as well. Sabrina is a yoga teacher, spiritual leader, and if you want to add something, feel free to when you speak. And Alex works in corporate America, so he does marketing, high-level marketing in global financial institutions like Citibank or Bloomberg or Chase or whatever, you name it. He's been there. So he can also, on top of discussing his experience with sex life and sex space, tell us a little about how that affects his work life, right? And how they two interact, if they do. All right, so welcome.
Thank you. What's up, everybody?
That was Chai.
Hey.
Sabrina.
Super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Alex. To tell me how your life goes against the grain a little bit, your sex life. So, Alex, for example, I can start with you. You are married for a number of years, right?
Yeah, I have been married for about 3 years now.
Okay. You have a new child, daughter,
I have a 16-month-old.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But to answer your question directly, the way in which it's slightly different is that I am polyamorous, and I have identified as such for the last 10 years. But only in the last, I want to say 4, have I been open about it, both with my friends and everything else. Here we have a friend that actually I met 15 years ago, and honestly, he didn't know about it until, quite recently, right?
Wow.
So it makes things very different because, I think people are getting more used to kinkiness, right? The act of tying up or doing whatever it is that people identify with things being kinky. But having alternative relationship styles, it's something that is not quite, understood yet, even by people in the kink community. You talked about like the power of words and how, when you're flirting and, when you're meeting new people, you could be a little bit more subtle. Not so for me. I actually have to start out by being like, if I want to do it in an honest way, I have to be like, hey, I'm Alex, this, and that. But very early on, I have to say, hey, this is, I am married. I'm in a relationship. How do you feel about that? And how, is this something that would work for you? Even preferably, oftentimes, most of the time I do that before going on a date. And to me, it often feels like I'm saying something negative. But I do know that when I do that with the right person, it's usually applause because they usually go like, wow, that's something that I'm looking for, or, that's something that I'm curious about. So, so that's, to answer your question directly, that's one of in many ways in which things are slightly different when it comes to me having an alternative relationship structure.
But that's wonderful because what that means is that you don't have to lie and cheat and like live in drama, right? Live in fear, live in guilt. So that's the perk. How many people do you think this eliminates? Like how many women will not go out with you knowing that you have a primary or you have a wife or, you guys are not going to take your sexual relationship like all the way to the whatever altar.
yeah. So, wow, is a high number.
It's a high number, right?
It's a high number. I want to say 70%, 80%.
Yeah.
But the good thing about that is I do remember dating in a more, can I say it, in a regular sense? Let's call it that.
Right.
And at the time, it felt like I had so many options. And now I know it's like, well, this is a great filter. And the good thing is usually the people that are, that are open to this are also very open to other things. They also tend to be compassionate. They also tend to, they tend to also be more vegan, also be more into yoga. For some reason, it all comes together. It comes with a lot of beautiful things.
I know, right? Yeah. I find that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so
interesting.
Exactly. So it's a wonderful ride because whoever does pass that filter, right, where there is some measure of both physical attraction but also that mental alignment, it turns out to be a good person that overall is not just somebody who's interested in polyamory or kink. Is usually a great person altogether. But yes, it does.
Are they single
or
are they also married or committed otherwise? So are you their secondary or?
So I sigh a little bit because I started out looking for people that had some sort of primary partner. But I want to say or half of the time at least, they are single, completely single. Is a good thing because I have access, but it could be a bad thing in the sense that sometimes I cannot fulfill
they may
all of
develop
their needs.
Major feelings, and then what do you do with that?
Well, there's nothing wrong with feelings. I do develop feelings on my end. And I think that's the difference between being a, polyamorous or like a swinger person. Like I do go on dates, and on those dates, I'm not quite sure whether I like them yet. I'm like, okay, you're hot, you're cute, whatever. But on the date, it's like, okay, if we vibe mentally, then we say there's a possibility of having some sort of relationship. What it is going to be tough for me is to provide all of their needs. If you have a need for a kid, that probably I'm not your guy. If you have a need for marriage, I'm probably not your guy. But if you're looking for somebody that can help you grow, right? Like, forget about the sex part. If you're looking for somebody that can help you grow as a person, that will challenge you mentally, that, you can have fun with, that you can have adventures, all of those things that you can get in the context of a relationship, without being married. Or
So you do allow yourself to get emotionally involved
do.
and emotionally invested.
I do.
Yeah.
And in
And
fact,
how-
that's most of it. Yeah.
Oh, really? And how do you kind of distinguish between like the love and commitment you have for your wife and the love and commitment you have for the girlfriend or girlfriends, if there are more?
Yeah. So for the most part, I date one person or
Okay. Like one
maybe
secondary
two,
at a time.
right? Yeah, because it's tough to have the time. Given the fact that I have a
Right.
somewhat successful corporate life and a baby, so, it's tough to be out
And
there.
do you
right?
have to be home every night, or you can spend the night at someone's house?
It's something that we negotiated for a long time. But yes, I do overnights.
You get sleepover
I do get sleepover rights. To answer your question, how do I?
Yeah, how do you distinguish the type of emotion or the type of feeling? Because I assume you have to separate them to make sure that the one, you have to make sure that what you feel for your wife does not get threatened, right? That's your commitment to her. That no matter what I do, I'm here for you. I'm staying with you. I'm not leaving the marriage for sex.
So I have tremendous thoughts about that.
Right.
Loving a person and being committed are two two very different things. There are a lot of people that are committed but not in love. There are people that are committed to monogamy or committed to being married but not committed to being in love. I'm committed to loving somebody, right? And I think that the question is whether that threatens my main relationship in a sense. I think it all depends on who you are. For me, that's I'm not the type of person that would say, wow, I met somebody, I'm going to leave my baby. You forget how little you have to do to feel so good.
Right.
That you lose kind of like in the context of a long-term relationship. And in a long-term relationship, the advantage is that you have a partner that does all of those things. So the short answer is no, I don't feel like it threatens it. But we did have to work a lot on that in order to put like appropriate boundaries, both for my wife, and also for, the rest of the people I meet. It was like, okay, this is kind of like how it works for everybody involved, including myself.
Right. Yeah. So you would say, I'm trying to simplify it for the audience because I think that that's where really the gray line, expands and gets complicated. Would you say that like you love your wife, but you get to fall in love and be in love with a girlfriend, but you're not gonna allow yourself to go as far in the kind of like life companion type of love? Would that work? Does that explain it?
Different people, this is a great question. Different people practice polyamory very differently. One of my partners, we don't see her often, but actually she is also married, probably like the first partner. I'm very good friends with her husband. And that person, is understood that whenever she's in New York, it's a person that we're going to hang out, probably, be very physical. If I'm in LA, same thing. And there's no breakup to that, right? So that's like something like that. Kind of light, kind of sexy.
Light, yeah. And he gets similar rights. So he has someone that he can go to.
As I understand, so I actually know that he also has a partner, but they both live in LA. So he's a much better person to answer that. But he has like a long-term girlfriend.
Right.
When it comes to me, the ideal situation is that I am open to having a long-term relationship with whoever, with the caveats that managing a house, managing the kid, managing all of those things are something that I'm leaving for my wife. The other aspects, not. But in terms of what does that mean from a loving standpoint, it's kind of like, well, if I have a second kid, does that mean that I'm not going to love that second kid as much as the first one? Love is love. And I feel that love is actually does not have a limit. Right? And it may mean, so for example, sometimes I'm sick, my wife cannot get to me. My girlfriend can, and
right.
Or
so your wife works as well as being a mom.
Yes,
okay, yeah. And does she also have the same kind of polyamorous style, or she's less?
No, she's very different. She's kind of like a more traditional, kind of what is seen as a more
normative.
No, kind of like the way people think that men would do it. So in her case is she sees somebody maybe once a quarter and is a lot more physical. And it's more like, oh, I'm going to have sex with this guy every 3 months or so. So at the end of the year, that's 4 times a year. Right? So it's not a whole lot, right?
Yeah. And you two still have sex at times, right?
We do still have sex.
Okay.
But she, again, now it comes back to like needs.
Yeah.
How are they defined? I am very hungry, I have to say. So I do have a lot more need for those kind of, exchanges, if you want to call them so.
Yeah. Well, it's also kind of like a physical thing, a hormonal thing for everyone. You're like at the prime, at your physical prime. So like, part of your, like instinct before we had financial companies and marketing directors is to just impregnate as many women as possible at this time in your life, and if she has a new baby, like until she's done breastfeeding and whatever, she's just not so, turned on and ready to like conceive again. So there is that equation, the animal within us that we kind of like have to respect, nature.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, she's always... And I know this person now for longer than a decade. Honestly, we met when we were teens. She is, while she's very sexual, for her it's never been a quantity thing.
Right.
So in terms of libido, mine has always been higher, which that's the more traditional thing. It's just that for me, it has always been very difficult for me to connect at a very casual level. And that's what I mean by polyamory. It's like, I have to get to know you. I have to get to do that.
Right.
For her, she wants less sex. She doesn't desire that. And that has been the case forever.
Yeah, gotcha.
So for her, it's seeing what is more like traditionally like the way that men do it. When men, like, I'm like, are you done? I literally was like, that was it. Whereas I'm more interested in the process.
She's more like goal-oriented. Yeah, like get me off and now I'm done. Let me get on to the next thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And as her husband, I may have some feels about that.
So that's interesting. I like this idea that's like polyamory. You emphasize the word amory, so that love is part of it. And that's like a way to distinguish it from like swinging or swapping or whatever, which is only the plumbing aspect. Like let's have numbers, but only at the sexual level.
Exactly.
Right. Interesting. All right. Well, I'll get back to you because I would like to, find out how kink and like fat life interact with amor and love. Because I don't know that, but I have to like give a little mic time to my other two guests. Do you want to go next, Sabrina? But at this stage, I'd like to know like where you each come from sexually. In this way of like, monogamy, polyamory, bi, straight, kink, vanilla, and like, how you feel about, the truth of like sex versus what we were brought up to do, the fakeness of it. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, first off. I'm
Thank you
really
for
happy
coming.
to be here. And pleasure has kind of been a theme in my life recently as I've been turned on to this author named Adrienne Marie Brown. And she has written a book called Pleasure Activism. And it's all about how radical pleasure is actually a form of resistance, because especially in America, we're not taught to enjoy things in a pleasurable way.
Yeah.
More so as we hold things up as representations of what we like to see ourselves in, but not necessarily feeling it viscerally in our bodies, appreciating it, being shameless about it, and embracing that entirely. So my head's kind of been in that space already, so it's good to be here. And I guess in my background, in general, I'm a pretty open-minded, open kind of person. I don't really Sorry, Mom. I don't really,
I guess we all have to start every episode with that. I didn't think of it, but
yeah, I don't really have a type. I don't have a discrimination. If you were to line up every one of my exes, they'd look radically different than one another, and that is across gender, across, you know, nationality, background, upbringing. I vibe more with energies, and I see people in an energetic way, and I receive the world energetically. So I've never really, even my first experience with a woman, I didn't even flinch. For me, it was like,
yeah, I
like
hear
this
you.
person.
Yeah,
Why not?
same.
You
Yeah,
know? Like,
yeah.
Why would we resist things that feel good or feel right? And I, as a person, I'm not one to abide by the rules, I guess. I don't really, I think everything is kind of subjective, and, you know, everybody's so different. I just have never really been able to like walk the straight and narrow when it comes to anything. So
you choose a partner based on like that feeling, like some sort of
I believe I choose a partner
like psychically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I at this point in my life, as I'm learning more about what it is that I appreciate and like, more than anything, I in a partner appreciate the friendship element of it, because in the sexual aspects, I just feel like sex is pleasurable. Let's make each other feel good. But for me, the deeper,
and everybody has their own language.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Sexual language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like on the physical level, I can enjoy that just for what that is. Like,
right.
Just for what it is.
Yeah.
But like on the deeper level, for it to it's
right.
friendship that is more sexy to me than anything. You know, like I am a very independent spirit kind of person, and although I've never indulged in polyamory, or I don't know if I would be able to, because I did come from a very traditional Catholic background. I don't know if my roots would go so far as to like fully embrace it, as much as I respect it, and I actually am curious. Like I like to hear about it, but for me, like commitment and in terms of love comes from the idea of, all right, I just want to hold somebody down. We make each other feel good in all the ways.
And for the duration, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's a way to keep things simple.
For sure. Yeah. And coming from the background I come from, like my parents stayed married for until my dad passed. That for me, it's like, all right, I want to be with one person for the rest of my life, but let's
but not quite yet.
Definitely not quite yet. And let's just figure out how we can make each other feel good in the process. It's a long time. Forever's a long time. I'm willing to learn, you know.
Nice, yeah. I love this idea of radical pleasure, like radical honesty. Actually marrying the two, like, sounds perfect.
Right.
Way of living, perfect way of living. Okay, so Chai, you want to tell us a little bit about how you, put together your private sex life, or public and private sex life?
It's hard for me to really commit myself to someone, because I've been hurt. I've been like, I have all these scars and
scars. You mean like from past relationships, or from
past relationships?
Okay.
Just knowing like how the relationships used to be, and like I'm old fashioned, so I like, holding the door for a woman, or like, getting into a car, opening the door for a woman, and then a woman like reaching over and opening the door for me. Things like that just make me feel comfortable. And I feel like nowadays in relationships, none of that matters. And all of it's just really based on superficial, or just, I don't know. For me, it's not really, every time I'm comfortable with someone, I have an expectation, and the expectation might not be the same for them, and I'll see that, and then I'll just be like, you know what, why am I doing this? And then I'll try for a little bit, and then after I'll be like, you know what, I'm done with this, and then I'll move on to a next, or I'll just be like, I'm done, period, because I can't seem to find someone that has the same like mind as me. So maybe I'll just be like, all right, well, I have needs, so I might hook up
sex,
with
right.
I might just hook up with someone and say, all right, well, we vibes, you're sexy as hell, you think I'm sexy as hell, like, what I'm saying, like, I'm gonna be 100 and tell you how it is, and if you don't like it, like, I respect that, but if you like it, like, let's go. What I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, that is easier, honestly. Like, that is easier, I think, in the end. Just keeping it at the sexual level and being honest and being clear is easier, because relationships get complicated nowadays, I feel, because we still have, like, in part of our brain the stuff we grew up on, like the Hollywood movies and the fairy tales and all that. It's still there. You can't just, like, deny it.
Yes, and I think a lot of people, a lot of partners that I've ever been with is always just, oh, well, we need to start off with knowing how much money you have in the bank, or this. Oh my God,
like, that's like the transactional
like,
stuff.
That's
really
crazy.
Bad.
Like, be my friend, get to know me. Be passionate as I am is about my art, and you know what I mean. And if it's not like that, it's really hard. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I'm gonna touch on that in a minute, but since I know that Alex has to leave us soon, so I want to go back to my question about kink. Because I think it ties in. I feel that how, FetLife in general, how it helps is that it has such specific rules and boundaries that it simplifies, traditional relationships.
Yes.
It makes it, you say, okay, this is safe word. This is how long we're going to do it. This is the aftercare. This is what we're going to do. Right? There is so much like, consent and agreement and clarification that goes on, that I feel like it's the opposite of that like mush that's romance, that we all have a difficult time now, because it's like the 21st century, but it's 20th century romantic lingo, we're stuck with.
It's all new, you know what I mean?
Right,
it's not, and it always evolves.
Right. It's evolving now, like we're evolving it. So is that what attracted you to kink, or?
Well, it's really interesting. So for me, it had nothing to do with the rules, and or codification or making it easy. Honestly, for me, that was it. Like I just
like once
was
you
attracted
had some,
to it.
you couldn't go back, kind of.
Well, for me, so again, separating the kink for the whole polyamory thing, because that's probably not kink. That like once I've understood that I was polyamorous, and then while I was having this conversation with the various people that I met, as I said earlier, a lot of these things come together. All this kind of being open-minded to different ways of having things. So then I naturally gravitated to more like, well, I want to try this out. I want to try, power dynamics, right? I want to see if I can be dominant, if I can be sub, if I can. So then, surprising to myself, I was like, oh, I'm mostly dominant. Like, I feel like I'm very even keel. But then I noticed that in the bedroom, I tended to be slightly different. So, to say the least. And, and I think, again, I've asked other people.
Do you have a specialty? What's your kink?
I'm very much into impact play.
Okay.
Restricting other people.
Oh, and restriction. Okay.
And but I like to dish out pleasure. That's kind of like what I say. I'm not trying to make them feel pain or whatever, but I'm trying very much to be in control. To kind of make that happen. And and to that end, though, I've asked various people, why do you like being hit? Why do you like? And a lot of people tell me I should do, rather than like, I saw it on TV or something. And they're like, I should do. I really like it when you tie me up, without having a specific reason. To answer your question, what I've learned is that a lot of people just like things, right? Like, without, especially for example, some people have a kink about sleeping with like a centaur, somebody that doesn't exist, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
And it's like, ask them where that comes from. And they go like, well, I don't know. I saw some cartoon. I really like it.
Right. Well, that's where it comes from. I mean, it's like, our brain, you can never like predict how it will understand something, and our brain is made to, protect us and like help us feel good and help us not feel pain. So, especially when we're younger, like we grab at all kinds of things is something that makes us feel good, and it's totally unpredictable. And then if you stay with that, if you don't like replace it, it becomes one of your things. Right. Yeah. And, or if like it's repetitive enough, that also makes it like one of your safe spots. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel that in general with women, if you think about it, women were supposed to like not be the doers, not be the ones in charge of sex. Right. It's kind of like lie back and let the man do the work. So, getting tied, both like brings a lot of extra time and attention to the female body, to the naked female body, which some women like, they like to feel that they got you in their naked presence. And then also they like not to have agency, not to feel, it makes them feel like not responsible, like you can't be, it's not, it was outside my control, the kind of like metaphor, right?
But the last thing I'm going to say, because unfortunately I have to go, is that there's a lot of power in letting somebody, dominate you or do anything to you. And I always tell that to my partners. I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, you are in control. You are letting me do this. And you always have the control to take that back. And that forces me to be a good partner, a good like really understand that they're enjoying themselves, because I understand that the ultimate power is being able to like restrict that from me. So,
right.
So there's something.
Speaking of restrict, that's a good. Hold on, one more question. How do you tie all that in with your corporate day job? How much of it is secret and hidden, and how much of it like
everything is hidden?
Out? Everything
is hidden is unfortunate, right? But it's
so that is a struggle for you on the personal
for me and on a personal basis, because especially the poly part, it's something that it is easy for it to come up, right? If my girlfriend comes to pick me up at work or something like that, or if I'm traveling and I'm not traveling with my wife, I have to be very careful about that. So, it's something that I'm still trying to figure out how open or how not open I'm going to be. And honestly, I haven't found an answer yet. So,
but it is a big issue, right? Of how to be kind of whole and sexual beings in the workspace, given how many hours Americans work.
Yeah.
It's a big issue. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you
for coming.
so much for having me. This was great.
Take it easy.
Okay.
In relationships nowadays, it's so easy for someone to get up and go. You know what I'm saying? If you're having a problem in a relationship and you don't see eye to eye every little thing, or like, you have an argument or something, the easiest thing is to let it go and go find something else, and not knowing what you're going to go find, instead of staying and working it out like it should be. You know what I mean? And I feel like
right. Like people don't want to do the work because it's so easy now.
Yeah, to just go and go get a fuck. You know what I mean? Or I want to be single and I can just go get some pussy anywhere. You know what I mean? Like I can go and go to Wood Tavern and get a chick drunk and be like, yeah, we go home and go. Just be 100 with them and be like, hey, I don't want a relationship. I just want to have a one night stand. Like, what's good? Like, you look good. I look good. Like, you know what I mean? Let's do it. Whatever. And I feel like that's a lot. That's more accepted now than when I was younger. You know what I mean?
Right. It's more accepted, but it's also easier. Like we have this hookup culture.
Yep.
So we all feel like it's easy. I mean, I think there is no exception to it. It has become easier to have sex.
Yes, definitely.
Like casual sex.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But a thing scares me, in having multiple partners, if I ever do or if I ever did, is the STD, AIDS, the disease factor of life now. It's just so dangerous. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like I have to like was mentioned earlier about friendship. I have to feel that sense of, you're there not just for my dick, you're there for me, and you want to connect with me on a mental level. You know what I'm saying? So I can see and feel where we can feel each other where we are in our life. You know what I mean? So I can be like, well, I see that you take care of yourself. You know, you do this, you do this checkups, whatever. And then there's some that are not open, and then those are the type of people that you're like, nah, I'm not. You know what I mean? You don't even take care of yourself. How do I know if you know what I mean? So that really is really hard for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's important.
Very open with sexuality. Speaking about sexuality is really hard. Like I'm in kind of something right now, and like talking about sex is like talking about like the worst thing ever. Like what the fuck, dog? I love sucking your pussy. I love like licking your clit. Why can't I express that? It's like, oh my God, don't, you're making a scene, or it's just like, no, I don't try to control me in that. I'm a free spirit, so that's how I am. Like I would love to just be like, hey, how do you like it? Do you like when I, massage your inner thigh before I, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. We should all, yeah.
They're like, wait, hold up. I've never heard, I'm not like this. Like,
yeah,
I'm
some
more
people
private.
like clam up. I mean, literally,
exactly.
It works. But, you gotta kind of help them to relax.
Yeah.
Because I feel like all of us eventually get turned on by, talking about sex.
Yeah.
Like naming it.
Yeah.
If for no other reason, because it's taboo, right?
Yep.
But yeah, you gotta get them there. Like there is a transition that has to be made from like freaking out because it's way too real.
Yeah, definitely.
To actually like saying, oh, okay, it's just a word that, means what we're doing, which is all it is.
Right. Whether there's so much stigma and sort of negative connotations that comes to sex, right? Like even our parents are so comfortable talking about the birds and the bees and talking about puberty and talking about, none of our parents,
nothing.
None of our parents has said, why don't you go to your room and masturbate?
And go feel how an orgasm really feels like.
Go figure out your body. Go play with yourself. You know what I mean? No one.
Can you imagine?
There's no sex.
What?
No way.
Exactly.
No
the whole
way.
world would be a
It's
sex.
like
big
every time.
fuck.
I mean, I remember everything that I know about masturbation while I lived with my parents is that half my brain was focused on
sex,
on them, on like them not catching me.
Right.
So half my brain is like, trying to get off, and half of my brain is, where are they? Are they gonna walk in?
Right.
And then I was also not allowed to have my door closed. They're always there. And that's the thing. It's like forbidden.
Yeah.
The shame of it. It's even unimaginable that like your mom or dad would find out that you touch yourself.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Like go to your room and masturbate should be the way.
Yeah.
But then
Play with yourself and get out of my face.
But something productive. Go masturbate.
Right.
But at the same time, like me being a father, I'm a father of two. I have a 15 and a 10-year-old, and my daughter's 15. And I think that if you would do that, it opens up them to maybe being irresponsible. You know what I mean? And for me, I don't think I could tell my daughter to, hey, go and masturbate, go find, about your sexual side, because I would be afraid that she'll just be all out, like loose and 16, she's pregnant. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
I don't know. I disagree with you a lot about that.
Yeah, I disagree
It's
too.
like saying don't smoke weed because it leads to coke.
Yeah.
I know.
You know?
I disagree
Yeah.
too. I feel like we gotta.
Yeah.
I don't have any kids, so I'm, I'm just speaking from, but as someone who's sort of like studied a little bit of child psychology, I think it enforces a healthy relationship with your body and what it is that you don't want, what it is that you like, and even with other people, what it is that you want, and you sort of develop into giving restrictions.
Right.
And give other people permission, not the permission to touch you, not to touch you. I don't know. I think that, and it doesn't have to be so crass. Like go masturbate. You know what I mean? I was just joking,
No, got
put
you.
it in a way that's
Subtle. And just
Yeah,
kinda like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think that, we were all raised on the basis of no, right?
Yes.
Don't do this, don't do that. No, 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 no. So actually, liberating our kids a little bit from what's forbidden and being positive, I think is great. And I mean, I'm a mom. I have a daughter, and I was clearly, sex is something that was openly discussed all the time.
Yeah.
So she was the one. It's interesting. They always like to rebel, right? So because I was so open about sex at all times and talked about it so much, like she's the conservative one. So actually, no, I did not make her like go wild. It actually had the opposite effect. Okay. She's like, Mom, I'm more conservative than you are. I'm not so
That's
comfortable
right,
with the whole damn sex talk nonstop, Like,
and your daughter is mostly into monogamy.
Yeah, and my daughter is like into monogamy. 100%.
She's not into women at all.
No, she's no. She's like, so
She's
that's
like
what
the
I'm
opposite
saying.
of you.
No, I don't think so. I think it's her rebellion, So I don't think like we're going to encourage them to, to be like
so you think 10 years should be a polyamorous lesbian?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, I don't know specifically what she'll be doing, but I think like, 10 years from now, she'll discover a lot more
right. She's
stuff about,
still really young.
But, I was telling her when she was, they would be like 14, and I would tell all the girls who basically grew up in my house, her friends, I'd be like, well, you do not give a boy a blowjob unless he goes down on you first. It's like,
at 14,
this
really?
is a rule you have to learn. Because I heard, the girls, not they, but they would talk about girls like on the school bus, Right. So I just felt it was important for them to become, little feminists before they were sexual and start understanding things that we'd never talk about, And to this day, like all of her friends will say, if I ever, they come to me with all their sex problems and love problems, but also they'll be like, if I, God forbid, get pregnant, need an abortion, I'm coming to you. I'm like, okay, I'm here, right? So I don't think that, being open, talking about it. I mean, kids like learn by example. So if it's only the talk you're doing, but you're not actually like bringing a series of boyfriends and having a loose lifestyle in front of your child, I think that, she's not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because they repeat what you do. Mm-hmm. And the talking just liberates, their mind. So they're freer from like shame and, judgment and all that.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the reasons why I had brought up my kid and brought up that is my mom had me when she was 16. So, and then I've seen how much my mom went through not having my father when he left my mother when I was 3 months old. So, like, just not wanting her to go through the same hardships and the same, like, things that I've grown up to see. So that's one of the reasons why I had kind of like said that. I would like her to be more open, in sharing stuff with me or just sharing stuff, period. But that doesn't happen. It's not happening. Yeah. She's like, Dad, I don't even go to my mom. I don't even go to mom to I go to my friend. I'm like, why would you want to go to your friend that doesn't know anything? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but that was the only reason why I had brought that up.
Yeah.
But, It is hard not being in a full-time relationship or being able to show my kid that I can be with someone for 7 years or 8 years. Mm-hmm. My lifestyle is crazy. Yeah, exactly. It's like well, super crazy.
You're not with her mom, so
I'm not. Yeah. I mean, they live in Connecticut and I live here.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So I just want her. I just want her to do her best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I don't let her have a boyfriend because I try to steer her more to get everything first. Concentrate on school, get your money up, get your place that you have to depend on anyone.
So you have to depend.
And then,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And then go ahead. You
Yeah.
got your money, you got everything. You don't have to
Yeah.
depend on no one to do anything for you. You can go and be straight. Like if something doesn't work out, you can go back to your
Right,
own.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
You're not
And-
gonna
and-
be dependent.
Exactly,
Yeah.
dependent on someone else, because that's been a lot in my family. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
And I
yeah.
feel like that's always been hindering like everything. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Being
exactly.
dependent on someone and being like,
woman's
well,
like financial dependency on the guy.
when it should
Yeah.
be, you should be dependent on yourself.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
just like happiness.
That's- yeah.
If you're not happy with yourself, how could you be happy with someone else?
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't go to someone else looking for complete happiness, because if you don't have it within yourself, how could you have it with someone else? You
That's
know what
right.
I mean?
Agree.
And how can you be open with something if
Can
you're not
she-
open with yourself?
Can she still explore sexually with other people without having to label someone as a boyfriend?
Well, my who? Anybody?
Well, I'm
or-
sure she does and doesn't tell him.
Yeah, of course. You know, I
She's not gonna, like,
definitely believe
report,
that she's
like-
like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know,
Yo, hey, Dad. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
Dad.
That's what I did today.
Yeah, call him up and say,
you know, I don't want to put it out there, but recently, one of my favorite nephews had came up to me. He was like, Unc, you know what I'm saying? Like, because my nephew and my daughter go to the same school, same high school. So, you know, I had asked him, I was like, yo, what's up with Kaya? Is like, you know, what's up with her? Like, he's like, oh yeah, she keeps by herself, but there's this one guy that she kind of like let in, and the guy tried to like manipulate her to have sex, and she wanted to lose her virginity with him. But the thing, the crazy thing is that he wanted to like videotape and just show it to the whole school and shit.
What?
You know what I mean? And I was like, what? But I couldn't go and say, well, you know, go to my daughter and be like, yo, you know, he said this, like, I haven't even told her that I know, like, you know what I'm saying? But I'm more trying to be open with her about being sexual and about like being in a relationship, and you know what I
Being
mean,
responsible.
and being
right,
responsible,
yeah, and respecting her body.
even though she's like, Daddy, you know, I'm sorry, but you should have done this 3 years ago. And I'm sitting here like, I've been like working towards it. You know what I mean? You're my
she's
first
not that
child.
old. She's 15.
She's 15. You know?
Yeah.
But it's hard. This
Yeah, but,
whole
you know, at this age, you can't
sexual,
win
you know,
also.
yeah. But I think that like the whole conversation base is like really, really complicated.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And
That's
it's
why we
like,
gotta take it like
is.
a
And I
step at
think
a
this is
time,
great.
like a word at a time, because it's complicated.
And,
yeah.
this is a great platform
vast.
for people to learn more about different, you know, aspects of sexuality,
Right.
and sexual preference, and you know, the whole kit
Yeah.
and caboodle.
Yeah, hear it like talked, you know, so you also like it's kind of like hear the words being said. This guy, you know, Alex's wife,
Yeah,
like
Alex.
that's not her strength. I mean, I'm sure she has many other strengths. We didn't get to talk to him enough to find him out. But, you know, we're not supposed to all have like the same sex drive.
Definitely not.
And also like understanding that about our partners, you know, and making space for each other's different needs.
Yeah.
Like makes for a happy relationship instead of like assuming that everybody's going to be, you know, alike. So,
Yeah.
you know, hi, I love you. This is the way I like sex. This is how much I like to do it. And you better be the same and never like do it with anyone else.
Yeah. It's crazy, though.
That's
I
like
don't know.
not a logical model. There is no logic to it. Like if you think about it logically, it's insane. It's insanity. But, you know, so many people think that's the norm.
Right.
Yeah.
I like quality and I like quantity. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
He likes
I
both
like
ways.
them both. Like, you know, I need a woman that's fly as hell. But trust me, if it gets boring, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you know,
It's hard to have quantity and quality, man.
Yeah,
and
it
actually
is.
like a
It
job.
is. So it is.
Like it takes time to have both.
It does.
You kind of gotta go with like one period quantity, one period like if you
Quality,
find
yeah.
quality, you stay with it until like you miss the quantity, and then you know. But it's really hard to have quality and
I
quantity.
think
Yeah,
you
it
just
is.
want a harem of
Oh, yeah,
quality.
he-
Quality women that could just like
Yeah.
one day you'll be there and another day and every day is different.
Yeah.
That, that's not reality for me.
No, that's not reality.
Is like,
Forget it.
I have to wake up and most of the time I'm alone and I have to masturbate and I'm painting all the time. And
I have to say, it's a good lifestyle. Like, you could do worse. I mean, I wouldn't be complaining about that.
I'm not complaining at all. Trust.
Okay.
Trust and believe on that.
Like, you could have a 9 to 5 somewhere and you have nowhere to walk off.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I told you, I have a good friend in New York who has a boyfriend. She's Jewish. He's Dominican. And when this happened last year, she invited me. I was in New York. She invited me to a Christmas party of her best friend, who's a female. So we start drinking and everything's happening. And then we start playing Spin the Bottle. Like some high school shit. We play Spin the Bottle and she's sitting next to me. Right, her boyfriend is sitting across from me where you are, and all of a sudden the bottle landed on her. She makes out with me. Her boyfriend like freaks out. We find out that night that she's having relations with her best friend, the girl, without her boyfriend knowing. So like it's sort of like one of those parties where all secrets like come out.
That's so cool.
I mean, they're still together. They're still best friends.
Good.
So it worked out.
It worked out, They found a way to talk about it.
Now that become borderline dangerous because we're all just horny and just want to fuck each other. And it's good because something may happen and the next day everybody just goes on living their own normal life. We talk about it here and there. We joke about it. Oh, this happened, that, but it stays within that circle. We don't really, like what I'm doing now, we don't really share it, to other people. And I like that. I like that if something happens like between me and you, Shai and I, or somebody else, that it stays, like we don't have to discuss it with anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think that privacy is very important for me.
Yeah, me too, I have to say. And, like Alex was saying, it's just kind of, that's like a major part of safety.
Right.
And, no stories would go out.
Right. And I think that was my mistake with her because I think at that dinner, she felt like something that
she was outed.
She was outed, right?
Yeah.
She was like, these are my friends that I've known for many years that don't know this part about me, like my sexual adventures that I partook with you, that I let you in, and then So I think that was a mistake.
Yeah, so that's a big thing about speaking sex. Like, it's good to speak sex in one way with your friends, and be open about it, and then speak sex in much more detail with like your partners.
Right.
So you're able to communicate about what you want to do and who you are and how long and how to change it around and all that stuff, but that doesn't mean like speak sex with all and sundry and like air everybody's laundry out, and name people. No. That's not at all what we're doing here.
No reason for that.
There's no need for that. Right. There's no need for it. And it's not about shame. It's just, there is no need,
Right.
It doesn't have to be part of any public discourse at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. You want to tell us another story?
No, I just wanted to add
we're all ears.
Right. So, in growing up, I didn't start having sex until I was 18. And then, what I'm saying, just because I was telling you earlier about like how my mom had me when she was 16 and I didn't have my first kid when I was 30. You know what I'm saying? To try to not be responsible. I just didn't want to be that type to be like, all right, well, I'm in high school, I'm fucking whatever, and then now I got 10 million kids. You know what I mean? Right. I wanted to really be, change that aspect of my parents. Like,
good.
You know what I'm saying? My father left me when I was 3 months old. Like, I'm still, I'm still in my kid's life. You know what I mean? And I will never, not be that. You know what I mean? So that's another thing, kind of like I feel like out of the loop a lot with the new sexual stuff because I started off old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of people that can be like, yo, I lasted my virginity until I was 18. Or like, what? When I was 14, I was getting pussy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
They be like,
Yeah.
damn, you did?
Yeah,
like
because
I
it's
wasn't
kind of
hearing-
like, you get street cred, but I
Yeah.
think it's better to start later, actually. 'Cause you're
Yeah,
like
I
more
felt
aware
good.
of what you're
But
doing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you've made up for those lost times.
Oh yeah, we've just found out.
motherfucker.
He made up.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It all worked out for the best.
Yeah, you know? And it's still not over.
It's not even close.
Not even close.
Not
Yeah.
even close.
Yeah.
Just getting started.
Yeah,
You
so
know?
it's good to be a late bloomer.
Yeah, right. I know what,
has
you know,
its
I want to go.
advantages.
Yeah, I want to go out. Like, I want to be on my deathbed, like, hitting some pussy. Like, you know, I want to die with a pussy and a blunt in my mouth. Like, yeah, I'm done. Yes, I've lived life to the fullest.
Yeah.
Drop the mic. Boom.
Boom. Like Mr. Rockefeller. One of those Rockefellers, right? I think the main one, he died while having sex and it was some mistress and then,
really?
they had to hide her and because he died with a hard on and, he just died of a heart attack in his old age, getting laid.
That shit's dope.
Yeah.
Like, that's dope. That's
a
the best
role
for me.
model. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
That's funny.
Yeah.
but
Okay.
yeah.
All right, sweet.
Sweet.
So thank
It's a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you for
having
coming.
me on.
It was a great
And
combo.
Yeah.
in the beginning, I was nervous as hell. I was like, oh God, what am I going to say? And
Oh, you have so much to say.
right? I'm like, I got more. Let's go on. Like 4 more hours. Let it be all. Let it all come out now. You know what I mean? I'm ready.
Now he's ready. Now you have to come back.
Hey,
We have
I'll
to come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll bring one of my partners back.
Yeah, I told you, bring someone. Okay.
But they're so
sweet.
scary, so I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, oh, my personal life. You know, I can't let it. We already know that. Like, let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm kind of like looking for, someone just to, in the future, just to, to be free and open minded like myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this was awesome being
Yeah,
a part of
that's
this
what we all
because there's
want.
people that are
Was
like
that was that a
me.
classified ad you just
Yep,
put out?
right there. Meettroopers.com.
That was a wanted ad, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. It's got a tag.
This was a blast. So thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
including me.
Thank you. And thank you for
course.
listening. Thank you for trusting me as your sex whisperer. And until next week, speak sex.
Ciao for now.
Ciao.
If I could make love incessantly, I would be God.